We've got a few days left before this election takes place, and it's up to you and it's up to me. If we don't do our job, this nation is lost. There will never be another free election. The electoral rules will change dramatically. The people in this country will be made to be blindly following a one-party system. And a one-party system throughout history has always resulted in destruction, has always resulted in calamity and catastrophe, and tens of millions of people dying. Hello and welcome to Along the Way Life's Journey. I'm your host, Carl Buccellato. Well, we are now on October the 15th, so we're only a couple of weeks away from the election, which is shaping up to be a very, very narrow election. It's going to be a tight race, and it's important that everybody recognize the value of their individual vote and what is necessary for America to remain a free country. More and more, I hear people saying what's been said throughout my whole lifetime. This is the most important election of all time. Well, this time it really is. This time, the issues of whether or not we remain a free, independent nation with the democracy and freedom of speech is on the ballot. This time, it matters what we think and what we say, because if the Progressive Democratic Party remains in power, all of the things that we know in this nation will soon fade away. They're working diligently on renewing the voting rules. More and more immigrants, as I've said many, many times before, illegal immigrants are being shipped around the country and found on voter registrations. In Virginia, the governor of the state of Virginia has decided that he's going to purge the rolls of non-citizens. And in so doing, he's found hundreds and hundreds of people who are non-citizens that are registered to vote. And the federal government has taken legal action against him to stop him from purging the voting rule registration forms for people who are not legal citizens of the United States. The federal government is attempting to stop a governor from maintaining a truthful and honest election in his state. Now, if that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what will. We are finding that there are hundreds and hundreds of places around the United States where illegal immigrants have been registered to vote. In the state of California, Governor Newsom has just arranged for a law to be passed that makes it illegal for anyone to ask for identification or proof of citizenship up at the polling booths, which means all of those hundreds of thousands of illegals who have come across the border in California today will be allowed to vote in the California electorate. Coming up soon, only a couple of weeks from now. Now, nobody expects the Republicans to win California, but we were certainly hoping that some of the individual seats that are up to play would be at least elected honestly. That doesn't seem to be the case right now. More and more I hear people saying, well, there's too much in the news that indicate that these stories are fabricated. Well, that's nonsense. Just like the government is telling us that FEMA is doing its job. Does anyone believe that they're doing their job? I have personally spoken to many, many people in the Carolinas, people who are residents there, who have homes there, people who have been there as volunteers working to support and help those people. And I can tell you firsthand knowledge, they are absent on the job. If it isn't for the work of local charities and it isn't for the work of neighbors helping one another out, we would have a greater disaster in the Carolinas than we have now. There are probably 1,000 people still missing, and people can tell you when they are on site. I see in the news they're making this thing that FEMA people are being assaulted by local residents when they show up. Well, let me ask you a question. If you went 8 or 9 days without food or water, without medical attention, without anyone caring whether you're alive or dead, and then some government agent shows up with a pad in his hand and no food or water, but just a pad so you can sign for a draft for $750 if you qualify, would you kick his ass off your property? I'm pretty sure you'd be angry also. But thankfully, we have people like Samaritan's Purse, who within hours, actually 36 hours after the storm hit, over a week and a half ago, they had thousands of boots on the ground. They had supplies and materials there because they have done so over and over again in every time of disaster in the United States in the last 30, 40 years. They are doing what the government should be doing and is not doing. And then they tell people, okay, well, FEMA is out of money. They were allocated $9 billion by the Congress just a few months ago. They're out of money? $9 billion? They have spent billions of dollars on the illegal aliens, relocating them, giving them housing, education, clothing, food, allowing them to get driver's license. And then let's talk about a moment about this $750 that the president is saying, well, that's not all, they'll get more. When will they get more? After they die? After they're out of food? It's kind of ironic that when these illegal aliens get to the United States and they get pushed through this open border, by the way, a third of the FEMA personnel are working with illegals to relocate them across the United States. Maybe that's why they're not available to help our hurricane victims in the Carolinas and in Florida. But when they come across, they get a voucher or they get a government credit card, debit card, good for $1,500 a person. These people in the Carolinas are getting a draft for $750. These are Americans being told that we, the people of America, don't have enough to do what's necessary to save them in their time of distress. When they're walking around, their homes are destroyed, the constant stench of death in the air from decomposing bodies, and our government is saying, no, this is all misinformation. People are lying to you. The people who are lying to you is the federal government, the Biden-Harris administration. They go and they show up for photo ops. Who needs them for photo ops? Vice President Harris had the nerve to contest Governor DeSantis and give him nonsense about why he didn't answer her call. The man is busy saving his people. That's why he didn't bother wasting his call on someone who's ineffective and had nothing to do with the hurricane support. Nothing. She's never even attended hurricane briefings in the whole 4 years that she's been in government. Never. What has she got to do with what's going on in Florida? Another photo op meant to distract the issues, meant for people to understand she's on the job, when in fact she's not, when in fact she's never been on the job. Okay, so we got a few days left to an election, a very serious election. It's all the polls tell you. I was just at a meeting yesterday, and the polls tell you it's a 2% swing one way or the other because of this massive amount, $1 billion worth of money that has been donated into the Kamala Harris fund by the elites of this country who are dedicated to maintaining power and control. $1 billion in advertising and alongside like type of contributions by radio and television and newspaper companies that don't charge extra for their support of these people. So multi-billion-dollar effort is in place to try and make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, to convince you and me that this woman is capable of being president of the United States. President of the United States. By what qualification? She's never done a darn thing. She had the audacity to go on TV the other day and say she, at a town meeting, and she said that she would match her role on the border and saving Americans against anyone. Is that the dumbest thing you ever heard? When she's been principally involved with maintaining open borders and allowing tens of millions of people to cascade into the United States and be dispersed into various places in the country for voting purposes, can't be just for cheap labor, because we're spending more on that cheap labor to support it as a government and as a people than the cheap labor actually earns. We've spent billions of dollars to maintain these people, while our veterans are thrown out of their houses and left to squander on the streets. Our American poor and homeless and mentally deranged are on the streets, but these immigrants are not. I have nothing against immigrants. I say it over and over again. I'm the prodigy of immigrants who came to the United States legally, who learned the English language, who became American citizens, who contributed their share to the growth of this country. They're not all gangs, I'm sure, but there are many, many people who have been let into this country, probably close to 1 million of them, that are doing harm to this nation. J.D. Vance was on a TV show the other night, and the reporter, she had the audacity to try and bring him down and say, oh, well, you're making a big mountain out of a molehill. It's only a few housing developments that have been taken over by illegal gangs in Aurora. And he properly said, only a few? Listen to yourself. Only a few you're allowing and condoning that armed thugs, non-citizens of the United States, are allowed to take over other people's homes, steal their assets, put them into harm's way? What would you do, Mr. Reporter, Miss Reporter, if one of your family was living in that building? Would you say it's only a few? Or would you demand that they be protected? We have a big problem in this country. We have a half of this country who is sold out in believing that the Democratic Party is going to do and be their savior. They follow blindly. And we have half of this country that believes the opposite and believes that the Republican Party and Donald Trump is the answer to our future, and that, in fact, we must vote to put them into office, not only Donald Trump in the White House, but the Senate and the House of Representatives, so that we can overturn some of these abysmal laws that they've put into place, these ridiculous rules that they've put in. We have a bureaucracy in this nation that is in the millions of people who decide for you and I what we're going to live like, what our life is going to be like. And we've never elected one of them into power. So they put out these statements of conditions of rules, and they send it to big companies across the nation. And they don't say it's not a law, but they say it's a requirement. And the big companies understand what that means. They better follow the rules, otherwise they will be dictated to and slammed by the federal government, the same government that's trying to censor everything that we see and think and hear, the same government who works in tandem with this elite group, a handful of people in the United States. They keep talking about the top 1% because of taxes and so forth. It's not the top 1% in terms of money, because the top 1% of the people in this country who, again, at a meeting yesterday, I heard these polling groups have found that the top 1% who are looking for the control of the nation, who are in league with the global elitists who are looking to do the same thing globally, fundamentally, these are people with doctorate degrees. They're wealthy, and they believe that the American constituency, the American people, are sheep. They have no right to govern themselves. And so this elite group has the audacity to say, why don't they just get out of the way and let us rule? Because that's not what this country is founded on. That's what the Nazis were founded on. That's what Marxists were founded on, not what a free country is founded on. And these people control most of the media. Most of the media is under the control of a handful of people who have elected, and academia. Let's not forget academia, because the elite group includes all of these professors of think tanks and heads of universities. We've been told over and over again, you go back and you look at Woodrow Wilson, who was a president of the United States, who was one of the premier progressives in America, president of Princeton University, who believed he was an anti-racist. He believed vehemently in bubonic to get rid of those people. He's an anti-Christian. He's an anti-Semitic. How do you believe people like this? How do you believe people who have no faith in God? How do you believe people who would step on their fellow human being for the sake of getting their own power? It's remaining in power. We've got to make a difference here. We've got a few days left before this election takes place, and it's up to you and it's up to me. If we don't do our job, this nation is lost. There will never be another free election. The electoral rules will change dramatically. The people in this country will be made to be blindly following a one-party system. And a one-party system throughout history has always resulted in destruction, has always resulted in calamity and catastrophe, and tens of millions of people dying. One-party systems, the Nazis, the communists, one-party system. It doesn't work. It never has, and it never will. We need a free country, a free electorate. We need free elections. We need to stand and be counted. We need to register, get everyone who we know to register, and to vote, and to get everyone we know to vote. If you know people that don't vote and say, well, it's not, I won't make a difference, my vote won't count. Yes, it does. Every vote counts. We have an obligation and a responsibility to the history of this country. We have a responsibility to the blood of our veterans who died all over the world to maintain our freedom. We have a responsibility to our children and our grandchildren who come after us to maintain freedom in this nation, to pass down a nation that has been the light on the hill for 250 years. The reason so many people want to come here is because it's the best it's ever been in the world. That's why people don't leave in droves. People try to get here because no other country in the world offers what the United States has to offer. And besides what a failure our government has been for hurricane relief, our people are the best in history. We come out and we give our resources. We give of our time. We give of our hands. There are tens of thousands of volunteers out there working to help in the disastrous areas in the Carolinas and in Florida right now. Citizens like you and me, get up and get out and do your share. Make a contribution. Franklin Graham was on TV just last night, and he said, from Samaritan Spurs, he said, I'm not asking you for money. I'm asking you for your hands. I'm asking you for prayers, to pray, to help these people. I'm asking for supplies. I don't need your money. I need your input as human beings. I need you to pray for these people, for all of us. So I know I have a tendency to ramble on. I get very passionate about this. I'm an old man. I make no excuses for it, and I make no apologies for it. If we don't all do our share, we as a country will fail. It's only a few days left till election time. Those poor people in the Carolinas are going to have a difficult time voting, but there's thousands of volunteers out there help trying to get to them, that bring them food and supplies and ballots to help this election be done legally. Do your share. Get up off that chair. Pick up the phone. Call your friends. Go to your local town meetings. Go to lunches with your buddies. Go to your churches. Tell your synagogues. Tell everybody you know. It's time to vote. It's time to vote for free elections. It's time to vote for a free nation. Not censorship, not hyperbole, not illegal aliens. It's time for us to vote. I'm going to do so. And I pray to God that you recognize what's happening here and that you do what's necessary. I said this a couple of times before, and I'm going to say it again. Be like the Minutemen. Get off our farms. Get out of the woods. Get out and fight for this nation. And you don't fight with guns. You fight with your vote. You fight with your voice. You fight with your mind. You get out and you tell people what has been done is wrong, and we will not allow it to continue. We will bring back to this earth a nation of valor. We will bring back to this earth a nation under God. And all those people who contradict, I have so many times I go online, and I'm sure that whenever I mention that I'm a man of faith, whatever I say, they're going to contradict me. They're lost. I can't help them. I'll keep saying what I have to say over and over again, and I pray for their salvation as well. And I pray for their wisdom, and I pray for their eyes to open to see what's in front of them, not the nonsense of propaganda, not this garbage that the government tells you that everyone is telling you lies and everyone is not telling the truth, and everybody in the Carolinas is getting what they need and what they want. There's a simple word for that, and I'm not a crude man, but I'll use it anyway. That's bullshit. That's just plain bullshit. We must vote. We must go out and do our civic duty. We must do our job. Regardless of what our individual beliefs are, we must get out there and vote. And you can't say, well, I don't want to vote for this guy because I don't like his attitude, or I don't like the way he talks to people. That's the biggest nonsense in the world. To you women out there, I'll ask you, you have a choice here. You have a choice. They're giving you this false information about the abortion laws and Wade versus Roe and all that stuff, which never existed in the original document. They want to go infanticide. They want to go to abortions up to the last minute in the birth canal. And you are going to allow that because you get conned into thinking women have a right for their own reproductive rights? Well, that's not reproduction. That's death. That's not reproduction. Reproduction is to produce another life, not to kill it. So you have a choice. You're in a terrible economic time under this current government. You have a choice. You can vote to feed and support and help your children, or you can vote for the right to kill them. It's your choice. What do you want to do? You want to maintain a sense of balance in how you think? Take a real look at what goes on with these things. Get beyond what the nonsense and the lies they tell you. You know, she's on the border again the other day. And once again, she says the border problem is Trump's fault because he didn't approve of this bill that they put out, which they call a bipartisan bill. The bipartisan bill, so to speak, had one Republican vote in its favor and 6 Democrats wrote against it, which is why it failed. It failed because it was nonsense. It had billions of dollars to go to things that had nothing to do with the border. They talked about hiring thousands of new agents for the border, but not to support the border and guard the border, but to process illegals. They wanted thousands of new judges to process illegals. Rather than closing the border and maintaining security for this country, they wanted that bill to enhance the ability to bring more and more illegals into this country. If you're hearing my temper go up, you're right. You're absolutely right. Our men didn't die on battlefields for this nonsense. I won't use the word again. Nonsense. These lies. But we have the power. We have the power of the pen, and that pen does 2 things. It gives you the ability to check and vote, and it gives you the ability to write a check and spend your money where it counts on support of the disaster people, the people who have been destroyed by this government. There are tons and thousands of people, millions of people across this country suffering because of the disgusting proposals and acts of this country, of this government. Can't afford to do it again. Can't do it again. Even Wacky Tim said erroneously the other day, we can't afford 4 more years of this. Well, he's an idiot, but he's right in that case. We can't afford 4 more years of this. So I encourage you, once again, get out and vote. American citizens, American patriots, American parents and grandparents, Americans who have a right to speak and know the truth while the First Amendment is still in place and the Second Amendment is still in place, because they are sharpening up to get rid of our freedom of speech, to censor us. This program may likely be censored again. It has been censored many times before. It may likely be censored again. But I'm sitting here this morning to tell you it's time to put a stop to this. We must get up as a nation, as a people, and vote what's right. Find out the truth. Look in on some of the programs by Levin, with Life, Liberty, and Levin on Sundays and Saturdays on Fox. Listen to some of that information. You'll be amazed. You will be absolutely outraged. Vote your conscience. Vote what God tells you to do. Open your eyes. Stop being fooled. Forget about the hyperbole. This is not about selfies and celebrities and the illicit top 1% that want to control the world. They've already got plans in place to control our finances with what's called an ETF, a new government and global control over all of the way we save our money, spend our money, invest our money, over one single control point with everybody's number in it. How much more do you have to take? Get out and vote. Do your share. I tell you every week, everybody's got their story, and this is my story, and I hope it's your story. I'm a proud American, and I wish you are too, and I know that I can depend. God tells me I can depend on the goodness of the American people to open their eyes and find the truth and vote. Get everyone you know, tell them to vote. God bless you all, and God bless this wonderful country.